Hege Bae Nyholt from Norway, Member of Parliament. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. So our main topic today is about Kurdish leader Mr. Abdullah Ocalan. Isolation still continues on him. There is no reaction from the human rights defenders such as the CPT, which is one of the prevention torture committee, as well as there is no reaction from European Council or European Parliament. So in this perspective, would like to first of all ask you that what are your concerns about the current treatment of Abdullah Ocalan? The isolation still continues, as I mentioned. It's been 3 years he hasn't seen his lawyers or family, and everybody says this is against human rights. So what are your comments on isolation of Mr. Ocalan?
First of all, I would say that this is extremely serious. Mr. Ocalan is a political prisoner, and he has rights, and his rights should be taken good care of. Isolation like that is kind of torture. You are allowed to talk with your lawyers. You should be allowed to talk with your family. Your family should have information about your health, if you're still alive, how the situation is. I'm really concerned about the way Turkey is treating Mr. Ocalan, because Mr. Ocalan is a symbol and a leader for the Kurdish people, but he's also a political prisoner. So the way they treat him also tells me something about how they treat other political prisoners in Turkey.
So as you mentioned, the Turkey's approach with the isolation system on İmralı Island, Mr. Abdullah Ocalan, as you said, it's concerning how they treating the other political prisoners. Also, do you think this treatment is also applied to all the Kurdish community in Turkey as well as in Kurdistan as well?
I know for a fact that a lot of prisoners has been moved to jails far away from their home cities. So it's extremely expensive and difficult for the families to visit the prisoners. I know that a lot of the prisoners are telling stories about torture, about beating, about violence when they come out from prison. I know that the women are telling horrible stories about how they are treated in prison. And I do have to believe the stories, because I do believe in people when they tell me about their experience. And Turkey tried to, in a way, look like a democracy, and in democracies you don't treat your prisons like that. And the Kurdish prisoners are, in my opinion, treated really, really badly, and they are punished because they are fighting for the Kurdish rights.
Thank you. Actually, mostly, I mean, in a very general perspective, do you think the isolation is Öcalan also causes that Turkey's attack to places such as Rojava, or bombing the north and east Syria as well as northern Iraq? Do you think the isolation on Öcalan has any impact as giving a green light to Turkey? Turkey has opportunity in this way to continue attacks to Kurdistan, because Öcalan is on the peace side. So the Kurds want peace, but still these attacks has been continued. Very shortly, very briefly, that one.
Mr. Abdullah Ocalan is an important symbol for the Kurdish people and the Kurdish movement. And I remember reading and learning about him in the 90s. I also remember when he was trying to find a place in Europe who could accept him. And I think it's a strategy from Turkey to keep him away, to keep him quiet, to isolate him, so they can have this war against the Kurdish people. Yes, I do think so.
Thank you. Secondly, one of the main questions, and one of the most important one, is what role is played by the EU political and judgment system on ongoing isolation on Mr. Abdullah Ocalan? Because I give example as the CPT and European Council as well as European Parliament. So what is the role of the EU and its constitutions and judgment system on the ongoing isolation of Mr. Öcalan?
As you may know, Norway is not part of the EU, so we don't, play a direct role in that area. But it's important for Turkey to have good relations, and they want to be member of the Union. So I think that EU should really, build up a big pressure and demand that Mr. Abdullah Ocalan and other political prisoners have their rights while they are in prison. And I hope that the union will do this, but I'm not sure if they will, to be honest. Yes.
Thank you. Also, the ECHR, European Court of Human Rights, has some role as well, such as EU Council decisions that isolation on Öcalan is against human rights. But still comply with that decisions. Still, there is no any action against Turkey. Is there any possibility to create pressure on Turkey to comply with the HR decisions? How that can be possible? As you mentioned, Norway is not a member of EU. Norway is also a strong diplomatic country. So how can Norway can create pressure on Turkey to comply with the human rights and democracy?
I think the silence against this isolation is too loud, and the world has an obligation against prisoners, against political leaders, against the Kurdish movement and the Kurdish people. And I hope that my country can make the pressure, but it's difficult to make them do that. Of course, Norway can be a part of countries whose pressure Turkey, and I hope that will be possible. But and I will work against my government and try to make them understand the importance of being part of this, democratic movement, because is in the questions about the democracy and about human rights. That also the Kurdish people should be allowed to fight for their peace and their rights, and their leaders should have this, it's small things actually that he should be allowed to speak to his lawyers, speak to his family, and the world should be told if he's still alive and how his health is and everything.
Thank you. You mentioned that Mr. Öcalan is a symbol of the struggle of the Kurdish democratic struggle. Basically, he's a symbol, as you mentioned. But to get a little more deeper in how important figure is Öcalan, do you think he has a key role to play for peace in the Middle East and bring peaceful solution to the Kurdish question? How important figure is the Öcalan for the world as well, not just for the Middle East area? How important is his ideas for you?
I think that Mr. Abdullah Ocalan and the Kurdish movement, because it's never only one person, but of course Mr. Öcalan is the symbol and the leader, is extremely important for the peace in the Middle East and how to find the peaceful solutions on difficult topics. And I really hope that it will be possible for Mr. Abdullah Ocalan and the Kurdish movement to continue the important work, and that the world will support it and learn from it.
Thank you. As you know, since 10th of October, there is a campaign called Free Öcalan, Political Solution for Kurdish Question. And this campaign has been started by Kurds and their friends as well. So what is the importance of this campaign, of this new era for free Öcalan and political solution for Kurdish question. How do you see that campaign?
Sadly, it's needed because, like I said, the silence has been too loud about Mr. Abdullah Ocalan's situation, about the Kurdish situation. And we do need a campaign who's awaken the world, I hope. And I hope the campaign will be successful, both for Mr. Abdullah Ocalan and the Kurdish people.
Thank you. How important is the solution of the Kurdish question for the region and for the whole world? Because the political solution for the Kurdish question will bring peace to the Middle East. How important is this? And do you think this model can work for other parts of the world as well?
I think it's extremely important. I was in Diyarbakir and Mardin during the election, and I witnessed a lot of violence against the voters. I witnessed how Kurdish voters was asked to show IDs when they entered the schoolyard. It was heavily armed soldiers in the schoolyard. It was heavily armed policemen inside of the school. We know that many soldiers were moved from other parts of Turkey into the Kurdish area to vote, to make sure that the Kurdish party should not be victorious. It didn't work. And I'm really, really happy that it didn't work. I talked with a lot of people during my stay in Diyarbakir and Mardin, and they told me that the language is dying because it's not allowed to speak in schools, and it's difficult to keep the language and the culture alive when it's kind of forbidden. They told me about extremely difficult both political and economic situation. And I think that if the Kurdish model will be successful, it will be like an important guide for other people who's fighting for their independence and sovereignties. I think it's important that we find a good solution that the Kurdish people can feel that it really takes care of them. And I also hope that it can be like a symbol for other parts of the world, of course. But you know, there are different crises, different wars, different occupation, and also the people are fighting it in different ways. So there is no one solution fits all, but I think it gives us hope, the Kurdish way, if you can call it that.
Thank you. We have little more time, so I would like to ask you that one as well. As everybody knows, Norway doesn't get involved in international conflicts that much. But as a Norway, as a strong country, as a democratic country, why do you think they don't make any voice about what's happening to the Kurds, as well as what's happening to the Kurdish leader Öcalan? Because it's example and as a similarities with Nelson Mandela as well. So just before I ask the Nelson Mandela question, would like to ask why Norway doesn't make any voice about these double standards on Kurds and Mr. Abdullah Öcalan.
I'm sorry to say, and a bit ashamed that my country is quiet, and I think it's. I don't actually know why we are that quiet. I'm guessing that we have some agreement, some economical benefits from it. There's really no reason why we shouldn't criticize Turkey. There's really no reason why we shouldn't be clear about this. And maybe it's because of we being together in NATO. I don't know. I'm guessing now, and it's always a bit, scary to guess. But the main important thing is that Norway is too quiet, and we are part of the world, and we should be concerned about how Turkey is treating their political prisoners and how they're treating the Kurdish people, and all the terrible things happening, like Rojava and Diyarbakir and Mardin. Yes.
How can you bring these to the agenda in Norway as a MP? Can you raise a question, or will you raise a question in the parliament about what's happening to Mr. Abdullah Ocalan, the isolation, which is a torture, as you mentioned, and which is still continues? Can you do something about it? Or if you can, what that will be?
Like I said earlier, I was part of the observations, the international elections observation during the election this year. And when I came home, I gave some interviews and some articles, and also made the report together with the other observers. And I think it's important to both, criticize Erdogan and Turkey and the extremely poor democracy that Turkey is. And also, yes, I think it's important that maybe the Scandinavian countries together can look at how we can raise the questions about its isolation of Mr. Abdullah Ocalan. Maybe raising it in parliament is one way. Maybe having meetings and conference about it is another way. This is something we are working at, and we have to work some more first.
Thank you. Also, as I mentioned, Mandela and Öcalan have some similarities, but it's well known that the Mandela was able to see his lawyers and family even under the apartheid regime's isolation. During Mandela's imprisonment, international institutions mobilized to free Mandela, but still we cannot see the same actions by international institutions to free Öcalan. What needs to be done to push the international institutions and international community as well to take action in this manner?
I think the campaign, like this campaign for Mr. Abdullah Ocalan, is important. I think that we need to raise the questions again. I think it's been silent for too long. I think the world has forgotten about him, I'm sorry to say. So I'm glad that the campaign is going, and I hope that it will be something people talk about, something people are concerned about, something that the parliaments have to debate. And that is my job, amongst other people's job, to raise the question and the awareness about the Kurdish situation and Mr. Abdullah Ocalan's situation.
Lastly, very shortly, very briefly, anything else I didn't ask, anything you would like to add on in this frame about Mr. Abdullah Ocalan and Kurdish question? If you would like to give a freedom for Öcalan message as well, please have your words. Anything I didn't ask, please have your last words.
I would like to say that the freedom of Mr. Abdullah Ocalan is important, and he's an important symbol for all the people who's fighting for freedom and justice. And I hope that all the political prisoners in Turkey and around the world will get their justice and freedom. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, dear Hege Bae Nyholt, Norway Member of Parliament. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for your valuable comments.
Thank you for having me.